Hi, I'm Gary and welcome to my shop. In this video, I'm going to show you how I made my shop cart that fits underneath my Ridgid R4512 table saw. And this is the second major version that I've made of this, and then I've done several tweaks to it also. And as I've gone along, I didn't really plan on making all these tweaks to it, but luckily I had everything squared up and true so that all my tweaks would still work well. So what I did here is added some drawers and some other accessories and items, and this will work great. So stay tuned and I'll show you how I do this. That I've made, I've had a lot of people ask me about it, and I've got it fitting under the wing of my table saw here, or the router table that I made for it, my Ridgid R4512. So it fits under there well for me. I've got it just the right height so it fits under, and then the width so it fits between the rails and stuff. And over the years, I've kind of rebuilt this twice and kind of come to this version here. And I've made a lot of modifications and tweaks as I go along, as I discover what I want it to do for me. So as you can see here, I've got all my small clamps on here, and they're just these rails here with the space between it so that the handles fit into that. This is the back side, and I've got a lot of my squares and so forth hanging on this on some pegboard. I enclosed all three sides now to try and control and keep the dust down getting in there. In the front here, I've got a drawer. It's a 3/4 extension. Yeah, it's a bit short. I don't know, maybe about 16 inches or something. And actually my space in there is 20 inches. So I'm going to make some new drawers that are 20 inches, and I've got some 20-inch drawer pulls that are full extensions, so they'll come out a lot further and give me better access. I'm going to have two drawers in here and probably bring these up a little bit, or else make this one deeper and a narrow one here so I can fit all this stuff off the top of here into this first drawer, so I can free up the space here for the project at hand that I'm working with. On this side, I had these hooks here. It holds a roll-up magnetic mat that fits on the top of my table saw to protect the surface when I'm not in use. I'm thinking about taking this off and putting some more pegboard here. Not sure what else I'm going to hang on there, but can we have too much pegboard around? I don't know. So I'll hang up this mat somewhere else, I think, because here it's just kind of getting in my way and need to make better use of this space. So I will get on here and show you how I make these drawers. Drawers are something we often do and fairly simple, putting the drawer glides in. Probably not a lot new to you there, but see how this turns out once I get it all done and get my last tweaks on here, so to speak. But we're never done tweaking and modifying things, are we? When I don't have my router on the table here, I can park that table there. This is that router table I did for my table saw. So I'll show you how I do this. I'll give you a few basic details here and some close-ups. The basic framework of this cart is where I made these four legs, and I made them out of 3/4 inch plywood strips that I'd cut down. The first one here, I cut this 1.5 inches wide. Then to make this 1.5 inches in the other direction too, I cut, this is 3/4 thick, so I cut another 3/4 inch strip and attached that to this, clamping together and gluing. Didn't have to use any screws or nails that way. Holds very strongly. Then at the four corners, I had this piece of 3/4 plywood on the bottom, and I attached these legs at the four corners with these screws through here, and then glued them in place also. Then to give her further support, got the top attached the same way. I've got a cross piece here to give it support. I've got these boards in here, which I attach these drawer glides to. And I've got a board across in the back there also. That all gives it very good support. I mean, this thing is really, seems to be pretty rock steady. Then of course I attached the casters with some carriage bolts on the bottom there. Made sure everything had good clearance. So that's kind of the basics, how that's together. Now for on the end of this table for grasping this so I could slide it in and out underneath the wing of my table saw, it was hard for me to keep a grip on this shallow edge up here and the end of the board. My thumb kept slipping off, my fingers kept slipping off. So I thought about putting some kind of a handle on there, but then I was afraid that handle might interfere with me getting these clamps out. So I took a piece of scrap wood, got it 3/4 by 3/4, and cut it roughly this length. I don't know if I measured it at all. It just seemed like a good fit, so I stuck it on there. And I just put it on with glue and clamps, let it sit overnight, and it's very strong. It really gives me a good grasp on there so I can pull this in and out as I need to. But for this clamp rack, what I did was I took some scrap plywood, made a couple of strips here with end caps on each end, a middle piece in the middle to keep it from flexing too much, and made a space here that's, you know, pretty good enough to hold the clamp handles. And to attach this to the side of the frame here of the table, I drilled some holes in here. Then I've got screws on the inside there, so I could put my screwdriver through here and then drive the screws into the side of the leg there. And that holds it very well. I mean, it's really strong. So I'm gonna step through some steps here in how I build these drawers to fit into this cart, and I'm putting these drawers in kind of after the fact, and not everything's all perfectly square, but I'm gonna have to tweak it a little bit just to get it to work right. But there's a lot of YouTube videos out there really great on how to build drawers, and in this particular case I'm using what is called a drawer corner lock bit that I got from Rockler, and it works with, well, 3/4 inch drawer sides and fronts, and also 1/2 inch drawer sides and 3/4 inch fronts and backs. That's just a matter of how you kind of set it up. So that's why I made up some of these setup templates once I got everything kind of tweaked with all my tests. So anyways, so I'm going to go through how I make these drawers here pretty quickly. Perhaps you can follow along, and if you need some real details on how to build drawers, there's lots of great videos out there on YouTube. Here I'm going to cut up some drawer sides for making my first drawer. I'm going to cut these to some rough lengths and then finesse them. For my application here, I'm going to cut these at 20 inches, and then I know I'll be cutting them down a bit shorter from there. 2 drawer sides. Then I'll go to the router and make the joints here for the drawer corner lock bits, and that'll attach into the front. So I set up this drawer corner lock bit here that I'm going to use. I've got this set up for cutting the joint that I need for the 1/2 inch sides for the drawers. Did some test cutting and so forth, and got that set up so that this, you know, passes through there pretty good. And I identified on my piece here so I can use this as my setup pattern for in the future. This is the drawer sides here. Need a follower to prevent some of the tear out. Then I use a push block here to hold these pieces in here securely as I go through with that. Now I'll change my setup for the drawer fronts and backs. Okay, I've got the bits set up here for doing the 3/4 inch thick fronts and rears of the drawers. Okay, here I've got my table saw blade set to a 1/4 inch depth to cut into the bottoms of these boards here, where I'm going to have all my grooves for the drawer bottom. And I set all these up and then marked where the bottoms are on all the pieces, so I can stay on track there. Then I've got this fence set in just a tad more than a 1/4 inch from the edge of the blade. And what I'll do is run all these through and cut that groove, and then I'll adjust my fence over slightly until they fit the thickness of what I'm using here for the drawer bottom. Now I'll keep adjusting here until I get the correct fit for that drawer bottom. Okay, that's it. It gives me good fit onto this, what's going to be my drawer bottom here. As you may see, that leaves me a little bit of a sliver here, so I'll back my fence back over a little bit to remove that sliver. Okay, cutting my drawer bottom to size here. Okay, I've done a test assembly here. Put the drawer bottom in there, put all the sides together, got my clamp set up, check that out to make sure I've got everything good and correct here, and the correct size clamps. Now I'll take this apart, apply the glue, and then clamp this up and let it dry. Don't have to crank these down real hard, just so long as they're good and snug. That'll hold everything very well. Check my square. And right on square. Good deal. Okay, so the glue is dried on this drawer that I made, and what I'm doing is going around and kind of sanding this, get the edges good and flush and even. Same thing with these tops here, making sure I'm good and smooth. And also I go across these edges here and kind of chamfer the edges with the sandpaper here to kind of smooth these over so they're not so sharp. And then also on the bottom edges here, making sure I'm good and dressed up and smooth. Next step is I'm going to be installing some boards into my shop cart to mount the drawer glides onto. I am preparing for my shop cart here to put in some rail or boards in here to hold the drawer glides. So I have to put one at a higher level here, and I may have to move this one down to another location here, depending on how my drawers fit in. I've got this mounted up on my Workmate 425 on top of this little cart that I made here. Put a link to the video on how I made this little cart for wheeling this around. Makes for a convenient shop kind of workspace. It holds it at things at a lower level than my regular workbench is. So when I put this on this Workmate here, I clamped my wheels to hold this in place so it doesn't roll off on me. And this, clamp that it has on this, and that holds it in place for me. Thing is that it makes this cabinet tilt down in the front here, so not going to be anything level. I'm not going to be using any levels for leveling up my drawer part because this is going to be off level, and my floors are not that all level either. So, but since I've got my cabinet pretty well square, I'm making my reference points from my different parts of the framing of my cabinet to keep me on track and square. But I had designed this originally to fit underneath the wing of my Ridgid R4512 table saw for height and for width. On the side here I've got where I hang all my small clamps at. So the height is this way, and with the wheels I've got my height set at 31.5. Now the width that I've got set fit underneath the table saw wing here is 21.5 inches. If you're going to make a shop cart like this to fit underneath your Ridgid R4512 table saw, these are the measurements that I went by for mine, but it depends on your shop space, slopes of your floors and stuff. My floors are not perfectly level, so I had to take that into account in determining my dimensions for sliding underneath the wing of my table saw. So I'm preparing here to measure up things for putting in these supports for mounting the drawer glides to in the box here, and measuring the distance or depth of my drawer. It's about 2 inches or just slightly less than 2 inches. So I space down from this board here 2 inches, and I marked that. And as a frame of reference, from this board here I measured, and it's 4 inches. So I'm going to use that 4-inch reference for marking the height of the board and the back end of this box so I get these leveled up correctly. And I'll do both sides that way. So inside here I've inserted this piece here that I'm going to mount the drawer glide on. I'm going to fasten this in here. I put glue on the back sides of these so they can adhere to these surfaces here, part of the framework that I'd made. And what I'm going to do is to put a couple of brad nails in to hold these in place while the glue dries. Now, given that the materials I've got on here is 3/4 inch thick and this piece is 3/4 inch thick, I'm going to use 1.25 inch brad nails for this. For mounting the drawer glides to the sides of my drawers and for the inside of the cabinet, got my drawer glide here, and this is a full extension. I've got this front here marked as the front of my drawer, so I can keep the correct orientation as I'm working on this side to side. I pull this out. This is the part that will attach to the side, and this part will attach to the side of the cabinet on the inside. So what I do is to line this up so that bottom edge here is even with the drawer bottom, and to get this end for this piece here that attaches even with the front of the drawer there. Then what I'll do is pull this out and start driving some screws in and pull it out again, making sure I'm keeping aligned along here. Put on some more screws, and then that will be attached to the drawer side and make a perfect match as I put this on to the inside of the cabinet on those rails or those wood pieces that I put in there to hold this part. Now this is how it was shown on that video that I gave a link to in the description below. That's a very easy way. Watch that video and you can get some more information on it, but it's fairly quick and easy in doing this. There's a tip for you when it comes to mounting this glide part into the cabinet here. There's a couple ways you can do it. You want to line it up with your mark that you want to level that on both sides. You can use a piece of sheet goods to cut it to line up with your mark there. That way you can just rest it on that and then drive in your screws. Or another option is to put some double stick tape on the back side of these glides. Get it lined up on your marks there and press it in place and it'll hold there. Otherwise, trying to hold this with your hands and trying to get screws going in and stuff is going to be very difficult to do. So here's a tip for you on an easy way to get these installed, especially when you can't put any clamps on because all the sides and everything are on already. Okay, I've got this drawer mounted in here. Works great. And as you can see here, I had to add in a spacer along the length of the drawer, about a 3/16 of an inch here, to get these to match up correctly so they wouldn't bind or anything. When I built the carcass for the shop cart, I made it all square and everything, but I didn't get real perfect dimensions on it, so I wasn't planning on doing all these alterations later on as I am now. But this works great. Just tweaking a little bit and it works good. What else I'm going to do here is to build another drawer down here. This one's only about 1.5 inches or so deep for small parts. I'm going to make a deeper one here, I don't know, about 3.5, 4 inches. I'll see what fits in here. And I'm going to put some drawer fronts on here too to kind of space this up evenly and cover up the drawer glides. Give it a finished look, even though it's only a shop cart. Okay, I've cut up my drawer front here. I drilled a couple holes through this drawer face here for the screws to go through that will attach the drawer front to this. And so the screw just slips in and out. Gives me a little wiggle room if I need to adjust. Cut a piece that fits in here to the width and everything, and looks like a good fit. So what I do is I put some double stick tape on the back side of this. I'm going to stick it in place there. Then I'll open it up, put some clamps on, hold it all in place well, and then I'll drive the screws in from the back side. So I will get this carefully positioned here. So I got an even reveal pretty much all the way around. That looks pretty good right there. So put a couple clamps on. Find out where my holes are at so I don't cover up my holes on there. Alright, I'll drive in the screws from the back side. That will hold that up pretty good. Now they'll work and hold up very well. I'll put a handle on here also. Okay, if you can see my marks here, I laid out the center, and then this handle has 2 screws on it, so measured that and measured out from the center to get this equal on both sides. Then I measured the center of the drawer up and down too, and made my marks. Now I'm going to scribe this. I'm going to screw the screws in at. Get one started. Okay, got that done. Works great. Now I'll do the other drawer same way, but I'm not going to bore you with all the details on a second drawer. Kind of get the gist from this one. Okay, so I've got this project done for this modification or this tweak. I got the 2 drawers in, they work great. This one is deeper, all works great. Got a good cavity space here for things I can put in there. I'm debating on putting in another drawer here and then maybe a tray here that kind of pulls out for anything I may want to set on there. But got the side here where I can hang my clamps. The side here with the pegboard where I was hanging all my squares and so forth. This side where I took off those 2 hooks that I was putting this mat on. So I'm thinking about putting another pegboard on here and getting some more use out of the space. So we'll see as I go, but for now I think this is going to work great. So here's another shot of this. Here you can see the top surface I've got here, 1/4 inch or so, or maybe a 1/2 inch edge around so things don't roll off. So now I can use this for a work surface. Keep all the other stuff I had up there into these drawers and be a bit more organized. And then this, as I designed the height on this and everything, it slips underneath the wing of my Ridgid R4512 Table Saw. Works great. Okay, so I've got this back together again, kind of like I had it before, except with a few modifications. Got a few things sitting on the bottom here, my drawers. The drawer's got that stuff in it. This drawer has this. Actually, I seem to have gained some space, so maybe I'll have to buy some more tools. And side here, I've got all my small clamps. Back here, I've got all my squares. This side, I'm going to try and figure out what to do with this yet. More pegboard or maybe some sort of small shelf. We'll go with that, and does it. Tucks under the wing of my table saw. Well, thank you for watching this video. I hope you enjoyed it and you got the inspiration to make something of your own, especially a shop cart that'll work and function well for you. If you enjoyed it and you got something out of it, please give me a like and share it with your family, friends, and fellow craftspersons. And to see what else I may come up with in the future, please subscribe and be sure to hit that bell icon so you won't miss out on anything. And I always love getting all the feedback and comments from my viewers. And as I say, if the ladies don't find you handsome, at least they should find you handy. Thank you.